Hello, and welcome along to tonight's stream. So tonight, we will be continuing to work on the changes that I had started making to a Cake module that I am the maintainer of. I'll wait to open up in Google Chrome, but now I get to. Let's close off one of them then. So the module in question is under the Cake contrib organization on GitHub, and it's called Cake.DotNetTool.Module. Hello, Kim. How's it going? So what we started playing with on Friday's lunchtime stream was an open issue that Matthias had raised, which was, I'm good, thank you, Kim. Yes, today's been a good day. Matthias raised this issue, which is basically, if a version is specified, it should check version and uninstall if it differs. And on Friday's stream, we sort of touched on this, and we decided there was lots of things to consider here. So we basically shelved it on Friday's stream, and I said I would come back to it. Now, over the weekend, I had a chat with the Cake team, including Matthias, and kind of come to a decision about what should happen here. So effectively, what we want to do is, if we go back to this code here, and this is the install. This is at the point that the preprocessor directive defers to actually perform the installation. Before, there was a sanity check to see whether the code was installed, the tool was installed at all. And if it was, it just said, no, nothing else for me to do here. Otherwise, it went ahead and installed it. So I've changed that slightly. I've changed that code slightly. So still checking to see whether the tool is installed. Now, feel free to review this code and tell me that it's all wrong, because I've literally just thrown it together in the last 20 minutes. So it's probably going to break, right? But we're checking to see if the tool is currently installed. If it's not installed, i.e., sorry, if it is installed, i.e. it's not null. Hello, Brett. How's it going? If the tool is not null, i.e. it is installed, we want to do some sanity checking. And the first thing we need to know is, what is the requested version number? So the requested version number is something that comes in the preprocessor directive. So with that information, if the requested version number is null, then there's really nothing that we can do, right? And what I mean by that is, if you haven't specified the preprocessor directive's version number, then we can't make a decision about the version that's currently installed as to whether it is older, newer, or something else. So we're basically submitting a warning at this point. So if you haven't requested the version number, we're emitting a warning. If the requested version number is not equal to the installed version number, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to uninstall it, and then we're going to install it, which is horrible, right? .NET CLI tooling should work properly, but it doesn't, right? There's an open issue, as Kim found out in the last stream, where the .NET tool update command doesn't actually do what it's meant to do. So I would love to be able just to pass in .NET tool update, but it's broken, right? So we're going to make an informed decision. Hello, Arthur. Welcome to the stream. We're going to make an informed decision that if the version number is different, we're first going to uninstall it, and then we're going to install it. And then, if we get down here, we know that the application, the requested tool is installed, and the requested tool's version is installed as well. So we're not going to do anything at that point, right? And then if the tool wasn't installed, we'll just go ahead and install it. So this is really the main change. We're changing this logic here that says, if we don't know what the version number is, we can't do anything. If the version number is specified and it's the same, let's not do anything. And if it's different in either way, higher or lower, we're going to uninstall it and we're going to reinstall it, right? So the main change here is I've made it, this method here that was being called was called install tool. Now it's called run.net tool, because I'm also passing in an enum now as to what kind of operation we want to do, whether it's an uninstall and an install. And I've kind of guarded against future that this .NET tool operation also has an update operation, it's not being used, but it's potential for it being there, right? So I'm kind of at a point now that I want to test this, right? Now, the test script that I have is this one, right? So what I want to do is I want to run the current script, make sure that it's working, and then I want to give it my new package and see what it does, right? So if I go to the command line here, now before the stream, I installed Cake globally as a .NET tool on my machine. So I've now got Cake here. It's failing because I haven't given it the name of the script. But if I do .NET Cake and then give it the actual name, so the name of the script is .NET Cake. Lot of .NET Cakes going on there. If I run that, then we get an error, and the error says could not find an installer for the .NET scheme. Now the reason that's failing is because it's trying to run this preprocessor directive, which is to use the .NET Global tool or .NET Global tooling to install the Octopus.NET CLI at a specific version, right? The reason it can't do that is because this module hasn't been downloaded and installed into the file system. So what we need to do is we need to actually come in here and we need to do a bootstrap. So I'm going to try and write bootstrap. Right? Now then I get a warning that says the module directive is attempting to install blah 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 blah, and we haven't pinned it. Now this is Cake trying to help, but in this scenario what I want to do is I just want to say, well, be quiet a little bit, and I'm going to say settings skip package version check equals true, right? So if I run that, if I now look at my file system, then in this folder, which is where I am, I've now got a tools folder, I've now got a module, and I've now got my unstable version of the .NET tool module for Cake, right? So we're getting somewhere. And now, if I go back and run all of this again without the bootstrap, and this time just run the script as is, which has one tool preprocessor. Try that again. It's got one preprocessor directive in it. Then what we should get in our tools folder is we've now got a .store and we've now got the Octopus.NET CLI installed there, ready for us to go. So it's done what we wanted it to do, right? So now what I want to do is I want to get rid of both of those things again, and probably the .NET, the Octo exe as well. Let's just get rid of the whole tools folder. I want to run this again with my nutcake, right? And I'm going to try and force it, because if I go up here to where I did build artifacts, then that is the package that I want to use. This nutcake here, which I've just built locally on my machine. Now, I think I can force it to do that. I think I can force it to use the local file system version by using file : and then the file path, which is that. Now that may need to change to be some forward slashes so that everything's consistent. I need a forward slash there. And then I need this. And then I need this, right? So now if I go back to here and I confirm that I haven't got anything installed, which was in my test folder, which is this one, right? If I run that bootstrap command again, maybes, it will have put the module in there. I'm fairly sure that's the one that I've just put in there, which was number 12. And that's going to have my code in it, I think. So now if I run this command, it's either going to fail really badly, or it's going to work. Let's see what it does. It's taken a while. Might have done something. Oh, we've got the .NET CLI in there. Interesting. I wasn't necessarily expecting that to work. I'll be honest. I wasn't expecting that to work. But let's give it let's give it a try. So NuGet.org. If we look up here for the current installed, the current available version of the Octopus.NET Global tool, I have no idea what that is. But if we put this in here, then the current version is 6.151. Now, if all of this code works, I should be able to put in 6.15.1, and it should automatically change to that version number. So let's see what happens. Tool Octopus.NET CLI is already installed, so nothing to do here. Okay, so that's not what it was meant to do, but it's done. It's attempted to do something. So tool is already in. Have I got some twisted logic in here? So what did it say? It said tool Octopus.NET CLI is already installed. Oh, hold on. So nothing to do here. That's not my code. So nothing to do here. That's not my code. How can I force it to use? I mean, I can do it that way. Let's cut to the chase a little bit. Because build artifacts, temp, publish libraries. Let's just pull the DLL then. Let's just grab this guy. I think it was pulling it from from a cache rather than where I asked it to. But if I go into here and go into here and go into here, no, if I go into here and just replace this DLL in here, place, and let's try running that code again. Different version of the module, yes, but it's using Git version, and because I haven't committed all these changes, I mean, I guess I could make a commit, would be the way to force it, or switch to a branch. But I've just copied the DLL, so let's see what that does. Ooh, it did something else this time. Tool Octopus.NET CLI is already installed, but with a different version. But a different version has been requested. Uninstall install will now be performed. Unrecognized command or argument verbosity. Now I know what that is. I know what that is referring to. But I'm quite surprised at the same time. So .NET Tool install has a verbosity level that you can control the verbosity of the install. Now, when I went and checked the help for the uninstall, that isn't a verbosity. But I genuinely thought that was just a problem with the documentation, because why would there not be a verbosity level on the uninstall if there is one on the install? Because the reason that that's failing is because when I come down here to get the arguments, I then put a conditional on the getting of the arguments and removed all of the ones that are not specific to the that are not specific to the uninstall command. But I got down here and I said, well, verbosity, you must be able to pass verbosity to the uninstall command. But you can't. So let's extend my if statement and let's put it all the way down here then. And then we're going to put it in here, which is a surprise to me. So that leaves, when it's an install command, the only arguments that we're passing in are whether it's global or local, and then the tool manifest. I don't think we've got a tool manifest at all, have we? We're not passing the tool manifest in. No, we're not doing anything with tool manifest on the install or uninstall. Okay, so let's build that then. If I go up a level, let's build this again. and we'll copy it over. We'll copy over the DLL again, so let's maybe get a second Windows Explorer, because we're going to do it this way. So we're going to go from this PC's C drive, GitHub, organizations, contrib, .NET.Tool.Module, build artifacts, temp, publish libraries, .tool. Okay, so this is the one that's just been built. Paste that into here. Because the compilation's already happened. Yeah, consistency's kind of went out the window a little bit, hasn't it, Kim? I genuinely don't know why you wouldn't want to pass in a verbosity to the uninstall command. Very strange. But anyway, let's wait and see if this works. I guess I could kill this because compilation's already occurred, but we shall let it finish. So if we get this done and we get a PR ready, I'm hoping to ship a release of the .NET Tool module for Cake. And if we get to that point, Manfred, who's not on the chat today yet, Manfred has put in a PR to Chocolatey GUI for a bug that he found. So I was hoping to be able to review that and get that merged in as well. So if we run, there was 44 detected inspect. There were warnings, weren't they? Hold on. But they didn't fail the build, so they must be warnings. So they're not errors. So yeah, we don't fix warnings. We don't fix warnings during a stream. Let's run this again. Octopus.NET CLI is already installed, but a different version has been requested. Uninstall. Ooh, look at that. So what did that do? So if we come up to here, and we look in the store now. Look at that. Right. So what do we want to test now? Let's remove everything. Let's remove the store, and let's go back to our test script, and we will go back to the earlier version number, which is that one, and we'll run the installation. So that should put in, oh, what did that do? What did that do? Failed to create, oh, I didn't delete the shim. That's interesting. I say interesting. I actually mean that's not good. See, that's a failing of the underlying tooling, not necessarily of the wrapper around it. But let's run it again, having deleted the shim as well this time. Okay, so we've got version 4.4.1 installed, right? Now if we come back to here and we say, well, actually, we're not going to include a version number. If we try running this again, oh, so that's actually giving it a warning as well, saying, are you sure? I think I like that. I wasn't necessarily expecting that to work that way, but let's do it anyway. So skip package version check equals true. And this time round, the .NET CLI is already installed, and no specific version has been requested via preprocessor directive, so leaving current version installed. 4.4.1. Beautiful. Okay. So now we go back to here and we undo that. Undo that. So we're back to here with the same version. We don't need the package skip anymore. And we run this again. Already installed with required version. Good. And then the final sanity check, we'll do it again. What was the version number? Version number was 6.15.1. So 6.15.1. And we run this guy again. Then Octopus.NET CLI is already installed, but different version number has been requested. So then we come over here and we look in here, 6.15.1. And then the final sanity check is we run it again. Oh, I thought of one other thing I want to check. Already installed with required version. Good. Let's do this last final one, which is I'm going to go back to an earlier version of the tool. So I've now got a newer version of the tool installed. Now I want to go back to it. Oh, Manfred. Yeah, exactly, Kim. We are on the same page. Manfred's just joined the chat room. So we were talking about you, Manfred. I knew you were going to say that. I knew it. I just knew it. I'm now going to downgrade this. So tool Octopus.NET CLI is already installed, but a different version has been requested. So now if I come over here and I look in store .NET Tools CLI, yes, look at that. So now it's downgraded. And it all works. So I guess I should address the bear in the room. So Manfred has come in and said, oh hey, Gear Bear, as in Care Bear. This is a brand new nickname that has been bestowed upon me from the other members of the Chocolatey team. I haven't necessarily decided if I like it or not, but let me bring up the thought process behind it. Let me just read a quote from Adil on the team, who's kind of the instigator of all of these. Where's his quote? Let me find it. Gary equals Gear Bear because he's so wonderful and cuddly. That's what I've had it bestowed upon me. So Kim's saying that's the new name we should use in the mod channel. I'm not sure if we're at that point yet, and I don't think we need stickers for that, Brett. And I'm definitely not going to suggest that to a deal. So that's the thought process for the other members of the team. A couple of that. So Stevie is Cow Goes Moo. That's his nickname. Paul's one is... Oh, what was Paul's one? Paul is a tasty morsel because seemingly Adil likes trying to put on a Scottish accent, and he likes saying tasty morsel for some reason. And you're going to have to ask him. I may actually... Now, come on now. Brett, don't make me eject you from the chat room, because I think I know how to do that. I might not know how to do that, but I think I'll find out how to do that. But yes. So basically everyone on the team now has nicknames. We're in the process of trying to think up a nickname for the newest member of the team, Joel. So if there's any suggestions for what Joel's new nickname should be, feel free to tell me and I'll pass them on. But for now, I think this what we're trying to work on today, apart from the squirrel that is nicknames that we got sidetracked on, I think this works. So I'm gonna look at the changes that I've made and see if I might just go ahead and commit these, because I think it works. I'm gonna delete these, and delete that, because we're past the point of that. So let's refresh this. There's no need to apologize, Manfred. I really don't mind. So the stream, one of the shortest one yet. I'm sure we'll find a couple of squirrels to go chasing after. That we can I kind of get sidetracked on. You could, in theory, review. See, I could, but I've also got numerous other things that I could be getting on with. But box starter PRs is a viable option, yes. Not necessarily one I would want to tackle without some sort of run up to it. But anyway, let's finish this one, and then we'll do the chocolatey gooey PR, because I do want to get to that one that Manfred has put in. So, the things that I've done today are... Oh, there's a question there from Brett. Why do you lot all use Vagrant over other hypervisors? That is definitely another viable option. So other hypervisors being... well, okay, so... I wouldn't technically say that Vagrant's a hypervisor. I would say it's an executor of hypervisors. The main hypervisor that we use is VirtualBox, because VirtualBox works across operating systems. So VirtualBox will work on Windows and it'll work on Mac. But other ones work in that scenario as well. It's just that VirtualBox is the free version, so it's the open source version. Now, I've had a couple of issues recently with the VirtualBox hypervisor, so I've personally switched to be using the VMware hypervisor, and Vagrant, as a provisioner of VMs for multiple hypervisors, supports both VirtualBox and VMware. But the Vagrant provider for VMware, that is a paid-for product. That's Vagrant adds another layer of abstraction. It enables you to do more like Bootstrap. Yes, exactly. So I personally use Vagrant because it's kind of the only thing out there, short of going to use some of the PowerShell modules for it, for different hypervisors. So you could use PowerShell to spin up VMs, take snapshots, all that sort of stuff. But Vagrant has the mechanism to also do some provisioning during the up process. So you can go Vagrant up, it'll do a bunch of stuff, do a bunch of installations, and it'll do it consistently between different operating systems. That's really the main draw of it. That's in practice, or rather in practice, that's not always the case. There are, let's call it, nuances, quirks, other words along those lines. It doesn't always work, but for the most part it does. So what we end up typically with a Vagrant file, literally a file called Vagrant file in our repositories that has all the parts that are needed to spin up whatever the repository is and run from there. I used Lability quite a lot for Hyper-V and just moved to Mac and using the remote development extension and Docker, which I am really digging. So that's another issue. So Docker, we use Docker in a limited sense. Chocolatey, how do I say that? A lot of the things that are chocolatey, like if you're installing a package, you can't always do it in a Docker container, because there is no UI in Docker, and obviously when you're installing things, some things require a UI, and ultimately what you're attempting to install and provision runs in a UI. So Docker doesn't always lend itself nicely to using for chocolatey development purposes. Have you played with it yet, Manfred? I've not played with it. So Steve, what Manfred's referring to there is that Stevie has just created a new PowerShell module called Vagrant-y, whose sole purpose is to make the running of Vagrant environments easier. Because one of the things with Vagrant is you have to do the vagrant up in the folder that you're attempting to do the folder up on. So what Stevie's PowerShell module does is it allows you to specify environments, and then you can then just do, I forget what the commandlet is, but it's literally start vagrant environment and then give it a name, and then it will know which folder it needs to be in order to do the vagrant up, and then you can throw away VM instances using the same nomenclature. So rather than having to CD in and out of repositories or folder structures to do the vagrant up, it will do that all at work for you. And it will also do tab completion of the environment names from the JSON file that it persists to the file system for you. So I haven't played with it yet because he literally just he published it last night, and I've not had a chance to play with it yet. It is PowerShell core compatible, so it will run anywhere that you can run PowerShell. But I want to go and look at liability that Brett's talking about here. Go away. Go away, Google. Fine. Liability. So let me show you an example then. So if I go to here and I go to chocolate test environment. That's an example. So this is a repository that we maintain, and in this repository it contains a vagrant file. So if you it's got a redirect from where it was originally. That's why I was able to kind of cheat. If you were to clone this repository and bring it down local and then do a vagrant up on it, what it will do is it will inspect this vagrant file. And this vagrant file, if we come into it, this specifies various things that make up this VM. So in this example, there's a bunch of stuff in here, but really it's what it's saying is, here's the base box that's going to be used. So what Vagrant will do is it will download from the Vagrant Cloud the base image that you want to provision a VM instance from. So in this case, it's one of Rob's base images for Windows 2012. Then what it's going to do is it's going to configure the specifics of this VM. So it'll set how much RAM it's got, how many CPUs it's got, various other things. You can customize these to your heart's content. There's two different providers here. There's one for if it's using VirtualBox, and there's one here for if you're using Hyper-V. And then there will need to be another section in here for us, which is whether you're using the VMware provider. And then having done all of that stuff, if we come down at the bottom here, then there's a thing for doing synced folders. So you can sync folders between the host and the VM instance. And then down here, we've got the provisioning steps. So these are what will happen when the VM is instantiated. So when you literally do the vagrant up command, it will grab that base VM, it'll spin it up, set all the base VM settings, and then once Windows is up and there's a good WinRM connection to the machine, what it will do is then the provisioning steps. So the provisioning steps can be literally anything you want. So in this case, what we're doing is we've just got a bunch of PowerShell scripts, and it is saying do prepare Windows.ps1, install .NET Framework 4.0, install Chocolatey, and then do a bunch of stuff, right? And then once you've done a vagrant up, what we recommend in this repository is to make use of a thing that's known as the Sahara. I keep doing that. Did it again. Go away, Feedback Hub. Control F. We make use of this thing called the Sahara plugin for Vagrant. So what it's essentially a shortcut for doing a snapshot. So having done a Vagrant up, which will then install Chocolatey, configure the VM, do a bunch of stuff, get it to a known place, you can then do Vagrant sandbox on. And what it will do is it'll take a snapshot. The idea with this test environment is you then take a snapshot, do a bunch of stuff on it, and then you roll back to a previous state. So that would just be Vagrant sandbox rollback. It'll take you back to that point from the command line. You're back at a known point, you do some more stuff, you roll back again, and then when you're finished with it, you do a Vagrant destroy. And then that will turf the VM away. But because we did that first step, which was to download the base box from Vagrant Cloud, which was this one. The next time we do a Vagrant up, it's a really, really quick operation. Vagrant, under the hood for most providers, enables what's known as link clones. So link clones means that it's then just a difference in disk between the base box and anything that's on top of it. So the next time you do a Vagrant up, it's literally within seconds it'll start provisioning a VM and it'll start spinning it up. With Lability, it's just being DSC, so you can build out entire labs and build ads and member servers, with whichever roles you want. So Vagrant, to an extent, has that. I mean, you can create networks within the Vagrant, so within the Vagrant file. So for some of the more complicated things that we have, we create entire AD environments. So we've got one that is literally spin up an AD server, spin up some servers, provision them, and add them to the domain, then have them all communicating with each other within an environment, and then it's just a single Vagrant up command will bring them all up to that known state. You can do a Vagrant sandbox on all of them, Vagrant destroy, etc., etc. So that's about it. I mean, I've never played with Lability, and I couldn't find it when I went searching there. Lability. Let's refine it a little bit. DSC. Virtual Engine Lability Test Lab. Is this it? Virtual Engine Test Lab Deployment and Configuration Module. Okay. Yeah, we'll star that for later. The other thing I should mention is that Vagrant has this concept of providers. So in theory, the same Vagrant file could be used for different providers. So whether it's Hyper-V, Docker, VMware, VirtualBox, yada yada yada, and there's I mean, the theory goes that it's agnostic to where you're creating those VMs. I see that Matthias has just joined the chat room. Hello, Matthias, and he subscribed at tier 1. Thank you very much, Matthias. You've been subscribed for 7 months, and you're currently on a 7-month streak. Thank you very much. Okay, so that was See, I told you there would be plenty of opportunity for tangents. Thanks, Brett. So that was Vagrant in a nutshell. Where was I? All right, we were looking at the changes that I've made. So I've added this new .NET Tool operation. Are you currently watching the stream, Matthias? Because I might get you as a sanity check just to see what I've got working, and then you can tell me if that's what you expected or not, since it was you that raised the issue. So I created that enum, which is the .NET Tool operation. I created this class, which is to hold the things that were found, and then I made some modifications in here. You are right. Okay, so is my face blurry? I don't know, Kim. I've had a shave. I don't know. Right, Matthias. Let me walk through what we've just done. So over. Let's go back over here. So this is my test script, which is currently asking for a module, and then the module that is the .NET module, .NET Tool module, and then to install the tool that is the Octopus.NET CLI at version 4410. Right? If I come in here, which I'm in my test one, and I do .NET Cake on .NET Cake, then it'll tell me that it couldn't find an installer for the .NET Tool scheme, which is expected, right? If I do bootstrap to do attempt the installation, it'll then tell me that I need to settings skip package version check equals true. So that will download and install the module into that folder, right? Now what we were doing for testing was I was going into this folder and I was deleting the module that was downloaded from MyGet, and I'm going to copy over the one that I built over here into here, right? And then if I just run .NET Cake again, it will attempt the installation then of the Octopus.NET CLI at version 4.4.1, right? So far, so good. If I then come back into here and say, I've already forgotten the version number, 6151, 6151, right? And I run the install again, or I run the script again, it'll tell me Octopus.NET CLI is already installed, but a different version has been requested. Uninstall, install will now be performed. So what happened there was it went ahead and removed 4.4.1 and it installed 6.1.5, which it wasn't doing before. Okay? If I come back to my script here and I remove the version number, right, and I run that script again, it'll tell me this is a warning that's coming from Cake saying that you haven't specified a version number. Are you sure? So if I say settings skip package version check equals true, then I'll get a warning that says .NET CLI is already installed and no specific version has been requested. So there's nothing for me to do. Okay? So it's left 6.5.1 installed. Okay? If I put that version number back again at 6.1.5.1 and run this script, well, I don't need that version check. But now it's saying .NET CLI is already installed with the required version number, so there was nothing for it to do. So it's just left it in play, right? And then the final sanity check is if I go back to my script here and I do undo, and get back to 4.4.1, having got the 6th version installed, if I run that again, it'll tell me that it's already installed, but a different version's been requested. So it's going to uninstall and reinstall. And if I go back here now, it's went back to the earlier version. Okay? Is that what you expected there to be? I'm hoping that you're going to say yes. And if you say yes, I'm going to go ahead and install it and submit it and merge it and all that sort of stuff. And if no version is installed, well, that's where we started. That's where we started the whole thing. So if I delete the store and I delete the shim and I run this guy, then it will install whatever version is specified, which was, in this case, the 4.4.1. Or was there another scenario in there that you want me to check? Or were you saying when there's no version installed with no version specified? Is that what you were referring to? Because I don't know if I've checked necessarily that one. But I can. So if I delete that, and I delete that, and I go back to here, and I remove the version, then it'll scream at me to start with, because I've not specified it. But it also won't install anything. Oh no, it will install. That's okay. And it's installed the latest one. Yep. That's fine. Okay. So the way I got that to work was to make a bunch of changes. And that bunch of changes were around how it tested for the tool. I made some modifications here, returned, rather than returning just a list of tool names, I returned the package name, the version, and the shortcode. I have all of that information now. I renamed that. What was I doing there? Oh, that was for that. I changed that from install to .NET Run because I'm doing multiple operations now. Passing in the operation, pending the enum name, yada, yada, yada. Right, I'm good with that. I agree, but I thought I saw it not... Maybe I was just misreading what was happening. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and commit this. So that is version help wanted. I'm going to say that this was an improvement. I'm going to say that this is going out in the next milestone, which is that one, which I think is right. Cake. Struggling. .NetTool.Module. The current version is 0.3.1, which is good. So this is going to be GH. I'm going to YOLO this. YOLO? You only live once. I'm going to YOLO. I'm going to put this straight into the develop branch, not via PR, because that's the way I roll. Issue number 2, GH2. Allow updating to allow changing of requested tool version. Previously, the module wouldn't check to see what version of a tool was installed. As a result, when a tool was already installed, even if a newer version was requested, it wouldn't be installed. This is really down to the underlying tool and how it works, but smarts have now been put into the module to check installed version against what is requested. So that an uninstall is first executed and then the requested version is installed. And there were some comments there. Matthias is saying it's a well-written issue. I wonder who wrote the issue. Oh, it was Matthias. Look at that. Allow. So that comment from Kim was about. I think changing the requested tool version can go in both directions. So I think that makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and commit that. That's going to go in. I'm going to then come out of there. I'm going to CD up a level. I'm going to remember if I've got a remote or not. I think I do. So I'm going to push this to upstream. Almost anniversary of that. I got there. How long has Patrick's PR been open? Push origin. So where's it? 30. See? I made it within the year. So this should now have that. I'm going to close this. We do indeed. I should have said this to you here. We accept pull requests. Okay, so the only other issue that's left open is unit tests. I'm not going to do that just now. I'll be honest. I don't want to. So I'm going to bump that to the next release. I'm a horrible, horrible person. I'm going to bump it out to there. If someone wants to do that, I'll happily accept a PR, but I'm not going to do that right now. So currently, 040 is ready to be shipped. So, and I've tested it. So I'm going to do a git checkout -b of the release 0.4.0 from my develop branch. I'm going to do a git reset hard on those changes that I made. Why is it still got a change? Git status, test tools. That's probably good in there. Test tools, you can go away. So, really? Right. So now we should be able to do a build with the target of release notes. I could have done that too. I actually wanted to verify what that folder was before I went and did that. So running the release notes task should create a set of release notes based on the asserted version number, which in this case is 040, against the open milestone that is 040, and we should get a generated set of release notes that make it up to here, which is here. So there was one bug and there's 2 improvements. And if we go out to @var.ci and we check Cake.contrib and make sure that this develop branch is working the way we expect it to. So let's just make sure that this build completes before we do anything else. If it does, we can go ahead and merge that release branch into master. We can push master, and then we'll get a new release of the package. So let's just talk amongst ourselves while we're waiting for that to happen. There's no new documentation, which I guess makes sense. Okay, so that worked. So now if we do a git switch to master, git merge. That doesn't look, does it? Oh, I know what that is. I know exactly what that is. But let's just make sure that they're all in sync. Yes, they are. So now if we do a git merge noff of the release branch, Mother Hubbard. I know exactly what the issue is. It's the same issue that we had last Friday. And we kind of got around that by doing a fake commit, and then we rebased the when we rebased on top of that change, it went away. That's not going to happen this time round, and that's why I'm hesitating. Because I wish I understood more about end-of-line terminations, specifically with how Git handles them, to know the correct way to fix this issue, because I genuinely don't. I mean, I can do the same thing that we did last time, which was just to add that and then do a git commit -m. We'll just do it as a maintenance commit. Fix line endings. But this time round, that's going to remain in there. So then when we do our merge, noff or noff release branch, that will come in. But now when we go back to git extensions, and we have a wee refresh, and it's there. No, I didn't get a conflict. Luckily, I didn't get a conflict. But that one's still in there. I'm not gonna care too much about it, because I could be here all night procrastinating about that. Let's just do it. I would genuinely want to know the correct way of handling that, because I'm not convinced that what I did there was the right way. So I believe I do have that. I think the issue is... I will check that, but I'm fairly sure. Let me just finish this process. And then we'll come back to that. That's what I was going to come to. So, if we go back to my code file, then up in here, I do have a Git attributes file. But what I didn't do, I think this is the issue, right? The issue, what I don't know is whether this is right or not. I don't know where I got this from, but this is the issue. But what I didn't do is when I applied the Git attributes file, or when I added the Git attributes file to this repository, I didn't then run that 2-line command, which then applies that Git attributes to the existing files in the repository. So when I did a fresh clone of the repository onto this machine, those Git attributes were applied to the files in the repository, and they needed to be committed. Yes, but then I've got a specific one here that says for solution, and it was a solution file that was causing a problem. Now, what I don't know is whether or how that snuck into there. So if I go up to here and go to get 13 OSS, I can't remember the name of it. So in my CI/CDs, the one that is my new default for everything, if I look at its Git attributes files, that is in there. So my error was when I added this Git attributes file was to not apply it to the existing files. If I'd done that and done a commit at that point, it would have been fine. But that means it will also use LF in Unix and CFR on Windows unless overridden in the user config. This was a problem once upon a time. And I think that's where I got this from. I think this recommended default came from somewhere. I didn't make this up. I borrowed this Git attributes file from somewhere. And I think that has, and this makes more sense now that I think about it. When I would have created this repository, I would have created it on my Mac because, I mean, it's where I was doing most of my development from. So when I created the solution, it would have created it in the default for Mac. And then when I applied the Git attributes file, it then did that on my Windows machine and applied those changes. And then when I tried to then do additional operations on there, it was out of sync. So basically, it was broken, right? But, I mean, we live and learn, right? We live and learn. So let's wait for this to finish. Then it did. So now if I go back up to here and I go to my releases and I click on edit and I click on publish, then we should then get a new release of the Cake.NETTool.Module. which includes the issue that Matthias suggested, as well as the two other things that were brought up. One was a bug around the naming of an argument, and the other one was an improvement regarding support for a new parameter that the .NET CLI now possesses. What's this? This is smooth. That's new. I wonder if I'm... Yeah, that's new. Anyway, I think that's all that we need to do for this one. The only question, Matthias, I would have for you would be, are we still contemplating 14 as a feature, isn't it? Not an improvement. 14. Please add support. Well, see, I'm not sure I like the wording on it, actually. I don't know. See, a feature to me would be... a feature to me would be adding something that wasn't there at all before. So by that I mean the install argument or the install command. This is adding support for an additional sub-property of that operation. So we're improving that existing operation. It's not a brand new feature. It's just an additional supplemental argument, is how I see it. But now that you point that out, I don't necessarily like the wording of the release notes, so I'm going to change that. I mean, we could debate that point, but I mean that's my take on it. Where did it go? Here. Let's do that. But if we come back to here and we look at this one again, then when this build completes, we should have a new NuGet package pushed to NuGet.org that is ready for consumption. So the question that I had for Matthias, assuming he's still there, was, are we still debating about moving this into Cake proper? So rather than it being a standalone module, is that something we would still want to do? Or what do we feel about that? See if he replies while I'm waiting for my bullet to finish. But then, what about the other ones? Like, I mean, we have multiple modules kicking about now, like the chocolatey module, the NPM module. Do we bring them all in? What's the... Why does one get in but not the other? I'm just putting it out there, just asking a question. It's just that .NET tools are so core to Cake. That's valid. That's valid. I don't disagree. Just asking a question. Plain devil's advocate. It's required for Cake.Tool setups. Oh, I see what you mean, because a lot of the tools wouldn't actually run under the context of... yeah. So I just got a getter message saying that it was pushed. But if we go into here and have a wee looky, just grab my password. Come over here. Set permissions. And where's the password? Interesting. This one I might have to type then. And then I'm going to need an authenticator number. I'm going to go and be right back on in a second. In a sec. Yeah. So it's made it up. It is there. It's not been indexed yet. So it is there. It will be ready. Oh, it's right. It's there now. So now the final test, if we go back to our thing here, and we go back to our .NET Cake here, and we take off this, and we place that with version equals 040. Let's just test this out again. So we'll cd into our test folder, we'll run .NET, we'll run .NET Cake on .NET Cake. That will fail. That'll tell us we need to do a bootstrap, which it did. And then if we do this, it will install some stuff. And that install some stuff was to put in 441, and then I think it was 1615, I guess. If I run that again, it does some stuff, and it puts it in. Okay. And then if we remove the version, cut that out, save that, that will then say it complained. I think that's why I thought it didn't actually do anything. But it hasn't, it is there. It's already installed, no specific things had to be done, which is fine. We undo this. We then go back to 4.410, and we'll find that doing that uninstalls that version, puts in the new version, or puts in the old version. There we go. Okay, good. Right, so it's all working. So it's ready to be consumed, Matthias. And I guess what I should do is I should go over to Twitter here, and I should find the tweet from Cake Contrib account, and I should retweet them because we've just done it. Okay. So is Manfred still around? Manfred's still telling me that Manfred's on the call. So what we're going to look at now is Chocolate GUI. Please review. Oh, hold on. Copy a clipboard. You're jumping the queue here, Matthias. Manfred was up next. Update Cake.DotNetTool.Module to 040. Commits 1. This is a build. 040. I'm gonna say. Why does that look different? Oh, hold on. Is this refined GitHub making this look different? Because that's the second thing that I've noticed now, that this looks different. I think it's refined GitHub that's doing that. Is that right, Kim? because it was you that got me to install that. Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to say approve. I'm not sure I like that. Messing with my cheese. Looks good to me. There's lots of CIs, but we'll come back and we'll read those afterwards, won't we? Okay, so now let's get back to Manfred's pull request. So Manfred created this pull request, and this pull request is related to this issue here. So, is that a cheer? Thank you very much for the cheer. There's most likely an error in chocolate install.ps1. Instead of chocolate GUI CLI, chocolate GUI is installed to set parameter values, which only opens up the GUI, without actually setting the parameter values. Also, the installer stops and waits for the GUI to close again. This is absolutely a bug, and this absolutely needs to go out in the next release. Manfred's taking care of it, which we did there, so that's good. And then here's the PR. So the PR file changes. Now, so what was happening before was that whenever you passed in a package parameter, the idea behind the package parameters for Chocolate GUI was to allow you to preactively set some of the features in Chocolate GUI. And when you did that, it would then pass in the feature enable command to Chocolate GUI to then do the work. Now, Manfred correctly noted that they say this one here says Chocolate GUI. Now, oh, that's a squirrel right there. Remind me of that after I finish this bit. Now, this used to work. Now, I previously tried to make everything work in a single exe. So I'd made some modifications to Chocolate GUI, which is a WPF application, to accept executing as a command line as well as a WPF application. And all of that worked brilliantly. It worked fine, worked amazingly. But the shims that Chocolate creates can only either be a GUI or a CLI. So even if the underlying application can be both a CLI and a GUI, the shim that is created can't. There's no way of specifying at the point of the creation of the shim that this shim is definitely a CLI and this shim is definitely a GUI. So as a result, even though I was invoking Chocolate GUI as a command line, it was appearing as a Windows Form application or a WPF application. So the end result of that was I actually have to ship. I didn't file an issue with Rob. I spoke to him about it, and he said that this was effectively this is too much of an edge case because it's 9 times out of 10 it's one or the other. It's not a mixture of the two, right? Or certainly it wouldn't have shims to control it. So the end result was that now in the next version of Chocolate GUI, which is going out, there are actually 2 EXEs. There's the Chocolate GUI EXE, and there's the Chocolate GUI CLI EXE. So the CLI is solely for invoking Chocolate GUI commands from the command line, and Chocolate GUI is for invoking the WPF application. Now, this installation script doesn't exist. I have no idea why that's not working, but let's have a look over here. New spec. Chocolate install.ps1 called GitHub. So what we do as part of this is we create 2 shims for the installation. We create a shim for Chocolate GUI, which is a GUI application, and Chocolate GUI CLI, which is a command line application, right? And the end result is it all just works. But as Manfred correctly pointed out, here where it's calling Chocolate GUI, and then here and here and here, they were all wrong. But what Manfred has also cleaned up a little bit, I mean, I'll put my hand up. I wrote this original script. I copied and pasted each one. What Manfred has correctly done is he has made this into a function. So he's now got a set feature state function, which accepts incoming parameters, which are the feature name and the enable feature. And then if enable feature, we call it enable, and if it's not, then we disable. So rather than having multiple calls to the same thing, it's condensed into set feature state, which is to be either the presence of the package parameter being there or not. Hold on though. Oh no, we were doing that before. Enabling. Oh no, okay. Okay, that's fine. What was a bug and what? Oh, I didn't even. Oh, there's. I see. So this one will work? No. View file and view raw take me to. I don't know why that is. That feels broken. I was looking at the URL. I didn't see anything obvious. Chocolatey gooey, blob. Then it's your username and your branch name. Is that not valid? Oh, it's a colon. Yeah. That's broken. Anyway. Anyway. What were we doing here? Oh, I see. If it contains that, if it's equal to true, then and that's what I was looking for. If it contains that, set the feature to be either that or that. Okay, no, fine. I like it. So I'm going to say that looks good to me. I'm going to approve it. I'm going to say merge. Maybe gonna just see. Hold on. Oh no, that's fine. It is there. That's fine. Would have liked parentheses. I'm not gonna. I would have liked parentheses around the commit, but it's okay. I'm fine. It's okay. It's fine. Confirm merge. I'm okay. And then I'm gonna say 100 wall. I'm gonna say PRT. I'm gonna say that, and I'm gonna do that, and that's done. Good. And then if we go over here, you have the fixes nomenclature, so that should be into there. And then the only thing that's left on the yeah, there's at least a couple of issues that need to go on that now, so if I recall correctly. Anyway, oh, why did that fail to build? Are you still around, Matthias? Why did that fail to build? Exit code 1 bash script. Oh, you're triggering it again? Okay, fine. Blah, blah, blah. Unrelated. Okay, fine. Okay, so that's... I've done the two things that I was wanting to do tonight. Now, someone mentioned the chocolatey VS Code extension. Is that right? We can have a chat about that. Because I do want to get back to it. I do. Let's have a wee chat about that. Close tabs. Let's have a wee chat about that. So the first thing that I want to chat about is that the hold on. Oh, you see that? That's annoying. So let me see if I can summarize. Sources. Oh, it is here. Right. So the first thing that needs to change is chocolate VS Code. Oh, that's the wrong part. Goodness sake. The chocolate VS Code extension currently lives under my personal profile on GitHub. Right. So the first thing is that it needs to be moved out of there. Right. I just need to do that, and ultimately, it's probably going to live under the chocolate organization on GitHub. Along with this one, which is the chocolatey VS extension, right? And there's another one that is the chocolate Azure DevOps, right? So all of these repositories maybes. I'm not sure what the final state was. I'm saying chocolate because I think that was the end result of the conversation. My personal preference would be for it to be under community as well. But that's a discussion I still need to have, right? So these three repositories all need to be moved away. At the very least, they need to be moved away from my GitHub profile. They need to go somewhere else, right? The reason that I have been hesitating about that are multiple reasons, right? The first one is that currently this chocolate VS Code repository houses the language server that we created. So currently the chocolatey language server, which is a implementation of the language server protocol specifically for chocolatey packages, lives within the chocolatey VS Code repository. That needs to be moved into its own repository that is specifically just the chocolatey language server implementation. The reason for that is because we have this thing over here, or we have at least the makings of this thing over here, which is to have another implementation of the same language server, but running in Visual Studio, not Visual Studio Code. So you'll see here that I kind of copied the language server from here into this one. So that's wrong, right? So we need to decouple this thing into its own repository, then reference it correctly from the VS Code extension, and then also from the Visual Studio extension, right? So that's why I've been hesitant about those two, because we need a clear separation between the two. The other thing is, if I go over here, yes, essentially that, Kim, yes. Because they technically are. I mean, the language server it's the rules engine essentially, and whether that runs in VS Code, whether that runs in Visual Studio, whether that runs in Atom, it doesn't matter. That implementation is the same, or should be the same, because it's written against the spec for all of them, right? So that, at the very least, needs to be separate. Because of the glaring differences between VS Code extensions and VS extensions, I also think that they make sense to be in separate repositories, yes. Simply because they're just fundamentally different. And I don't see the point in them being in the same repository. It makes a clear segregation between which one's which. Different release cycles, different... yeah, absolutely. So these two repositories are going to be split into three. Ultimately, the language server will be pushed to NuGet as a standalone package, and then the VS Code extension and the VS extension will take dependency on that NuGet package and bring them in as part of their build. That's what I'm envisioning. This one is, or one of the reasons, if I go over here and say VS Code Marketplace, the other reason I've been hesitant is I initially created these extensions and I published them under... Oh, what's that? Hold on. So not downloading it like C# extension, doing with OmniSharp. So not downloading it like... Well, it's what it comes down to is whether we want to create it as an embedded, or a fully embedded package or not. We potentially could download it at the point of execution. I don't know. I mean, I'd originally thought about shipping it and then just shipping a new release when we update the language server. I guess we could. I've been sidetracked again. Why would you do that? A simple chocolatey snippet generator. This will create a complete new spec file. Dependency. Use when modifying chocolate install. This will create a snippet for installing an application from a URL. We have almost all of those already. Why would this person create this? I'm so confused. Nicholas. Sure. I mean, we have most of those already within the extension, but okay. The other reason I'm hesitant about changing any of this is because I've published these under my publisher account. Now, it's my understanding that it's difficult to change that publisher, because if we're going to move them into Chocolate League organization or the Chocolate League community organization, it would make sense for it to not be under my account anymore. But I don't think you can easily change that publisher ID. Yeah, look, we have snippets for install and uninstall. Oh, never mind. Is there a Chocolate League GitHub action? Yes, there is. Why? Fairly sure there is. Yeah. GitHub action for Chocolate League. Oh, I see. Just wondering, migrating a few things to GitHub Actions. Yes. Now, this GitHub action is implemented in the what am I trying to say? It's running mono, and it is using the cross-compiled version of Chocolatey, which is the unofficial version of Chocolatey, to do the packing and the pushing. The base image on GitHub Actions, as you're probably aware, already has Chocolatey installed as well. So depending on what you're doing as part of the build, you can just shell out to Chocolatey directly from whatever you're instrumenting it with. So it's already there. But there is specifically a GitHub action for doing it as well. But if you look at how it's able to do it, then you have to use this flag in order to allow the execution of Chocolatey when it's not the official build. Hopefully that answers your question. So that's why I've been holding off and fixing this one. But it is on my list of things to do because myself, Maurice, Kim, have put in a shed load of work to bring this language server up to a point where it has a number of validations that it does. So there's quite a lot of validations that it does, and all of these result in red squigglies or yellow squigglies or some other squigglies in VS Code to make the creation of a Chocolatey package that bit easier. So I would like to get back to having, or rather, not even getting back to it, but I would like to even at least ship what we currently have. There was at least one outstanding thing that needed to be looked at, Kim, which was the sending of the entire file over to the language server for execution or processing. I believe I'm right in saying that Martin has now figured out all of those things so that we can send diff files over to the server rather than the full file now. But it's just a small set of potentially. I think there were some open pull requests to do some things as well. Why is that grayed out? What's going on there? Why are those grayed out? I'm assuming that's refined GitHub kicking in there again, but I'm not sure I like it. Faded out because it's opened by a bot. Oh, interesting. Okay. So where can I set? Okay, I'm gonna go off on a squirrel. How do I find the settings for this extension? Is it just literally up here? That's not what I expected it to be. How do I modify the refine GitHub options? I'm gonna guess. Here we go. Why would I want to give it a token? Features co-authored by, add co-authored to the commit by merging PRs with multiple. Oh, interesting. Right click and I consider in the filters. In the filters here, enter review. Add comments indicators and comments are. There's quite a lot of options that you can set then. Quick review bounds. I do have quick review bounds. Oh, I like how they've got. Oh, that's pretty clever. I like that. I like what they did there. I don't know. It might grow on me. It's just that it moved my cheese. That's all. And the other one I noticed was the tags on the milestones. So not on the milestones, on the releases. If I come over here to releases, then I'm assuming that this was refined GitHub as well, where it's providing this drop-down list. So I might get used to it. But anyway, where did we get to? So, where did we get to? Because there's also the other thing that I need to come back to at some point is, because I've not finished it yet, is, I think you're right, Kim. Yeah. I think you're right. The other thing that I still need to get back to is this. Where's my spreadsheet? I don't have Excel installed. But there's still a number of add-ins in this list that need to be bumped up to the at least minimum version of Cake. I don't think it's as bad as it was, but there's still a good number that need to be updated. Where's the picture of progress? We're getting close with the 33 release to being at least on par with the prior versions. Is that actually one of them? Hold on. Mateus is sending me off on a little tangent as well. I keep doing that. This feedback hub. Windows key F on my Mac is search. But when I split back to my Windows machine, Windows F is the feedback hub. That's why it keeps coming up. So I need to remember to hit Control F here. So strong name. It's on version 25, look. Interesting. Because this little guy here is an add-in that I created the other month. It's a little wrapper around a strong name signer tool that applies a strong name to reference assemblies that aren't strong named. And I needed this for reasons. I also now have a reason for another tool that is called SN Remove that I think I'm going to be creating an add-in for as well. So this is a utility tool which removes a strong name from a DLL. And then I'll leave you to imagine what I'm then going to do with the add-in that I then created. So having removed that strong name from an assembly, I might be using this to put another one onto it. So fun and games. But yeah, strong name tool is indeed not up to the latest version. Oh, but I have... Oh no, that's a... Yeah, I should probably do that as an issue. Oh, what's... Did I follow up with him on this? See, that was back in October. He hasn't got back to me about it. Pretty much, Kim. Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Flipping the strong name key that's being used at the time. So, find the key, see if it's the same key. If it's not, remove it and replace it, and then do it again, backwards, forward, backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. Yeah, it's the kind of thing that keeps me entertained. But so I think I'm going to have to create another add-in that is Cake.SNRemove, which is a wrapper around this one. And not quite, hopefully not an infinite loop, no. But this thing has literally got two arguments, and that's it. You almost don't need the wrapper, but it's just so much cleaner to have an SN remove alias as opposed to start process with arguments and redirecting of standard inputs and outputs, yada yada yada. It's just so much cleaner to have an add-in, in my opinion. So I might have to do this. The only complication is that there's not published in NuGet, and it's not published in Chocolatey, so it's installing it is it's an additional step. Exactly that. There's no NuGet, so maybe you need to embed it. You are allowed to freely distribute this utility via floppy disk. I could send floppy disks out to everyone. Floppy disk, CD-ROM, internet, or any other way, as long as you don't change anything for this. I guess I could. As long as you don't charge anything for this, which I wouldn't be. If you distribute the utility, you must include all files in the distribution package without any modification, because the zip file has a CHM and a license file in it. So, interesting. I could do that. That would make things a little bit easier. So, embed and ship. I might just have to do that. That's a job for a different day, because I'm now down to 18 minutes left, and I don't think I'm going to do anything for the rest of this evening. So we might just sit here and chat for a little bit. But yeah, this is on my list to make into an add-in. Although technically it would be a tool at that point. Interesting. Anyway, let's see if there's anything that we can do in the last few minutes here. Where's my notifications? They're under here. See if anybody's done anything that I need to do anything with. A tool in 18 minutes shouldn't be that hard. No, we're not doing that. Although there is a yeoman generator that makes it really quick. But even then, I'm still not doing it. Nope. Oh, that's what I could be working on. Hi, let's have a little. I talked myself into helping out with some stuff that I probably. No, that's not right. I talked myself into doing it, and I could have been doing other things, but at the same time, I feel it needs to be done. So it was Arthur who kind of talked me into it. So if we go over here and have a look at Git tools and then Git version. Right, everyone on the chat is familiar with Git version, I would imagine. So if we do a Git clone of this guy, and that guy, cd into Git version, Git remote, add upstream to this guy, Git fetch upstream, Git rebase upstream master, Git push origin, and I'll tell you what all this is about in a second. Git branch minus A, Git checkout. I'm going to say it's that one. Git, let's just check. I still haven't understood why you don't do Git pull upstream. It's a lot of typing. Git ebase on master. It's purely down to muscle memory, Kim. It's the way I've done it since I learned how or was taught how to do it. So doing anything other than it would be as bad as trying to remember to do git switch rather than git checkout. I'll be honest. That's what it's all about. But what we're doing here is currently the documentation for Git version is over here on read the docs. Now, the original thought process behind having that was that we were going to have, because I was wasn't part of the original team, but I was part of the early team, let's say, of Git version, and the whole idea behind read the docs was it was going to be versionable. We would be able to have different documentation for different major releases and be able to control all of that and have it so it was all beautiful. But the end result is it doesn't really work. In order for the documentation to exist at those different tag levels, then you have to always have the documentation up to date. The documentation has to be correct at the point of releasing that version. And if it's not, then retrofitting that documentation becomes difficult. So after a conversation with the Git Tools team over the weekend, I think, was it? Maybe a few days before that, we've kind of decided that we're going to switch away from using read the docs to use YAM instead. So I started the process of walking through at least part of that. But it failed the build, of all things. So, you've closed that pull request, Matthias. I just got a notification saying you closed it. So it obviously must have built after that. There must be a unit test that verifies stuff with regard to the documentation. So I want to check what that is to then fix it and then continue retrofitting the documentation over to use YAM instead. Oh, I know. So I'm not. So sorry, maybe I didn't say that right. So the Kim's saying YAM doesn't support version documentation though. No, absolutely. So the point I was trying to make was that in the original thought process of using read the docs was that we were going to be able to do this, and we were going to be able to have these different points in time of the documentation. But it's simply put, it doesn't work. It doesn't scale very well, and it's hard to retrofit. So we're going to move away to using YAM and just have a single these are the docs rather than these version ones. So it becomes a little bit easier. So I've already went through this process for Git Release Manager. So if I say duplicate here and I say Git Release Manager, then I've already migrated the documentation for Git Release Manager over to use YAM, and it was using read the docs before. So I'm going to walk through that same process for the Git version documentation and also publish that to GitHub Pages, which is where Git Release Manager currently publishes the documentation to. So that's what I have signed myself up to do. But like I say, when I did even some of the baby step changes for that documentation change, which would take me into here. You'll see that there was a failed build down here, and it was one of the unit tests that failed, and the unit test that failed was yada yada yada. The documentation file configuration.md couldn't be found, and I know it couldn't be found because I moved it. So I'm curious as to what this was attempting to verify and what I need to update in the unit test to make it work. So hold on. I should definitely do that. Let's fix that just now as well. Well spotted that, man. I'm assuming that still works because you get a free. Yes, you do. Beautiful. Whereas before it was not secure. That's a great shout. Thank you very much. Did I do that for the documentation here as well? Let's have a look. You change it there too then. Let's change that. Edit. HTTP : whack. Oh, that could probably be an S as well. HTTPS. Let's just check that that works. It does. And I'm going to assume that shields.io has got an S as well. It does. So there's another 7 of them. So that one is the docs. I'm going to assume that particular will have a certificate. It does. Particular. There's an S in it. The noun project will, won't it? Must do. Noun project it does. And then an S in there. So this is going to be a doc switch to SSL addresses for URLs. Now, did I read something about how do I do the whole co-authored by thing again? Was that not something that was in Refine GitHub? I was going to put you in, Kim. When did I do that recently so I could steal it? What did I co-author you on? What was that? So I can steal it. What did you help me with? Oh, it was Git Release Manager, wasn't it? So we go back to here. I think commits. There we go. This one. I'm going to steal this. Copy. Spotted by Worm Tubing Stream. It's this part. This is the part that I never remember. The users.noreply.github.com. Can't seem to get that in my head. There we go. Okay. Build is broken. What now? Now this is bizarre. What you think? Maybe. As in git push -f. But I'm also, this one confuses me too, as to why Docker is needed. So the reason that I was like, oh my god, why is that happening? Because I tried to build this branch on my Mac, and I was getting an error very similar to that. And I was like, well, why is it failing? And then Arthur was like, let me look into it. I wasn't necessarily expecting to get... Why is Docker needed? I know why Docker is needed, but in the setup? What's it doing in the setup? Setup. Verbosity diagnostic. Context data has not set up. I think that's coming from the teardown, because setup and teardown will be set up to be the same. So here it doesn't have that context in the teardown, which is what's causing that error from the teardown. Is a misnomer because it was never set up. So in here, get parameters, build, in here, get parameters, so if we're running on Azure Pipelines, or we're running on hosted, or build system.local build, I was just seeing that there, then we need to be calling that. So I'm going to assume that that's over here. Well, that's not going to work, is it? Because it wants to be running Docker info. And, well, that's clearly not going to work. Yeah, I don't have Docker. I'm not sure if I want to have Docker. I'm going to ask Arthur a question about that later, not today. But basically what I want to get to is I want to get to a point where I want to get to a point with this where I have all of the documentation converted over to YAML. So I started that process by moving the docs into an input folder. I then need to think about adding I basically strip out from Cake.Recipe some of the YAM publishing and previewing code and stick it in here and test it all out. But like I say, at the minute I can't test it out because, well, things are broken. So I'll need to speak to Arthur about why Docker's needed when running locally, because I don't think that's right. So, in a quick search, where's this used? Docker CLI platform. or root prefix. Yeah. I'll speak to him. Anyway, so that's where I'm at. That's what I've got. Okay, so as a quick, just so I can say I've looked at them. Chocolate / box starter. What's that now? Hold on. Cake.NetTool.Module works fine. Just upgraded to. How are those two things related? Oh no, I see what you're saying. Sorry. I see what you're saying now. I apologize. It must be my bedtime. You should totally get Paul to join a stream doing that. So have you updated all of these ones that have got changes requested? Or are these changes requested not required anymore? Because at least 2 of your PRs have changes requested. In your opinion, all good. Let me see. So, I mean, these are kind of on Paul. So I can bring him onto a stream if he wants to come on and we can have a chat about it. So are these the 4? Sorry, it's a bad example. So let's have a quick look. So just so I know where we're at. That's not my word. Issues. Milestones. So there's 9 open issues. Do all of these have... Well, they can't because there was only 4 PRs. So do we know if we're talking about bumping some of these in order to get the next release out is what I'm getting at. So the next release I'm assuming is 2.13. So there's 4 open PRs, but there's 9 open issues. So it would be good to know if these are going to be included or not, ready for the next release. But I mean, I can speak to Paul and see if he wants to come on and we can go through this, and if you're around as well, we can have you on to chat through them. Let me take a note of that. Because what we spoke about was having a stream to actually do the release of Boxstarter, because at the minute I would be required to do the actual release, the publishing of the artifacts. I need to be around to do that, so I'm happy to do that work on the stream. But if you wanted to get on a stream and work through these 4 open PRs, then we could certainly look into do that as well. But for now, I'm going to say that that's a job well done. We've got a release of Cake.NetTool.Module out the door. We reviewed a PR in Chocolate GUI, and we attempted at least to do a build of Git version, but it failed because it looks like I need Docker. So I will speak to Arthur about that one. And I'm going to say that is indeed a wrap, Kim, indeed. Friday stream, no idea. I haven't thought about it yet. I might work on some Git version stuff so we can get this working. We might continue the porting of that documentation onto YAM and get to a point where that is ready to go, hopefully. But for now, I'm going to say that's me. So thank you all for coming along. I hope this has been useful in some degree. And thank you for the cheers from Manfred and the subscription from Matthias. And yeah, I do have plenty of things left to pick from. I just need to go on and do them. But anyway, right. Talk to you later. Bye bye.